I woke up this morning and I had a thought, so I'm going to share it with you as a guyism. I guess I just don't understand people's general aversion to dealing with conflict. And, maybe it's because I've been a teacher for so long, and maybe that's just a characteristic of most teachers or the ones that I worked with anyway. Trying to avoid conflict because who wants to be arguing or debating with a parent or the administrative team for that matter? I guess I just don't understand what people are afraid of. Are you afraid of losing? Are you afraid of not getting what you wanted? People not liking you? Conflict is a lot like failure in my eyes, anyway. People seem to have an aversion to it or a negative relationship with it, I guess. But I would argue that conflict, much like failure, is a necessary part of success. And if there is no conflict ever, there's usually an underlying problem that's not being talked about or shared. And believe me, peace does not always mean the absence of conflict. Sometimes it just means that people are really good at shoving their feelings down and not sharing, which is never a good idea, especially when you're working with somebody. And how we deal with conflict really speaks to our character. I've done a lot of consulting in schools in situations where team teachers were not getting along. And uh, the teachers may not be getting along with administration. They were having a difficult time with communication or understanding each other. I guess if all of the unspoken disagreements get swept under the rug, I found in my experience almost every time it leads to resentment. And resentment is ugly. And it can manifest itself in passive aggressive ways, depending on the people in the relationship. It can also manifest itself as just out and out spite and anger. Either way, in this particular situation, the teachers are supposed to be working as a team for the students, right? And instead, they're working against each other just because of their lack of communication or wanting to avoid conflict. Seems like a pretty bad price to pay, right? It's really important, I would say, even necessary for two people who are not seeing eye to eye to talk about it without fear, especially if your disagreement is getting in the way of your efficiency or effectiveness. Wouldn't you agree? In whatever your role is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be teachers. I mean, it isn't the idea to come up with the best way of doing something. And sometimes it could be a combination of both people's ideas. Who'd have thunk, right? There are two parts to conflict resolution. The first is identifying and sharing what the problem is. And then the second part is working on or towards some kind of resolution, with the understanding always being that sometimes it's just not possible to resolve a particular problem. Everyone has choices to make in conflict resolution. It if you have decisions to make, you might draw particular lines in the sand, so to speak. But I would advise keeping your negative vibes to yourself in these situations. That is, if you're not going to share your feelings, because that's just not fair or right for that matter. You're giving off this negative vibe that if the other person is intuitive at all, is going to pick up on. And they're going to, do that doggy head tilt thing. Something's not right here. And it's just not going to be good for either one of you. And if you're both afraid of conflict or confronting the disagreement, nothing is ever going to get fixed. If you go into, whatever it is, a negotiation or a mediation, with only winning on your mind, you've already lost. You might as well not even have the conversation. And you definitely can't say things like, hey, if I agreed with you, then we'd both be wrong. Or, yes, you have the right to your opinion, and I have the right to think it's stupid. I'm absolutely not being stubborn. My way is just right. I mean, they're all funny as hell. Well, but People really need to understand their roles and responsibilities in this area of conflict resolution. And in order for it to be conducted in a civilized manner, the rules need to be clearly defined. Having a neutral party with no skin in the game is always a good idea. But what the hell do I know? That's the way I see it, and I'm sticking to it.